everybody who is alive today, vast majority of people, have never known any different. People are just used to the broken money system. When you even say money, people's brains go to a dollar bill or, euros or pounds or numbers in the bank account or whatever. People don't really think of money as that stored labor and energy, which you can then use to trade for other people's labor and energy in the form of goods and services, which is what it is. If you work a job, if you run a business, if you have a career, we are all constantly exchanging our time and energy for goods and services, right? It's just constant exchange, and we do that through the medium of money because we can't always barter, as you were saying. But I just think that because it's, when did the U.S. go completely off the gold standard? 1971, and I think in the 1930s the process began.
It's around the World Wars.
Yeah, in many places, and so this is just what people are used to, right? It's just like, inflation is just a given. Some people think inflation is good, some people say. And you're just like, wait, if you think about it, the idea that you store $10,000 today and then the next year it's worth $9,500, and then later down the line, you can get to a point where, that 10,000 is now worth 500 or 1,000, and people kind of just accept that. And you're just like, no, that's not meant to happen. And historically that wouldn't have happened, to say, if you'd stored your money in gold.
Start is understanding money a bit better. I like to think of money as our time and our energy in an abstracted form. What I mean by that is you do this podcast, in exchange for that you get money. I run Strike, in exchange for that you get money. You mow a lawn, you fix a windshield, you drive a car for someone else, you get money. So money is the market good that captures our collective contributions to society. It's intended to capture our time and energy so that time and energy can either be saved or be traded, right? You can't go to the restaurant after this podcast and say, hey guys, I just recorded a podcast, I'll take 2 steaks. They'll be like, what? I don't want that. That's what we call barter, right? To solve for barter and scale the economy and allow us to hyper specialize on something like a podcast. Like, a podcast isn't a tradable market good for dinner, for gas, for groceries, but it is for money. And so money is that market good, again, for abstracted time and energy. Now, if I were to store my time and energy in wheat, for example, let's go through that mental exercise. So I work all day on whatever I'm doing, and in return I get wheat. Well, how good is that money, is wheat being the money, at persisting and saving through time? Well, it's very bad, because it's going to go bad and moldy and stale. And so that wheat is going to be worth 0 in about a week, right? Everyone has moldy bread. And then how good is that money in exchange? Can I send that wheat to Europe on my phone, right? And so thinking of money as how to capture your time and energy is a very powerful idea, as opposed to like a piece of paper, or as opposed to something that your government, whatever, tells you to use. Then contrast it to the dollar. If a government can print their own money and debase their money, that means they're debasing by proxy your time and energy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So also, a government's ability to borrow their own money is, in my opinion, as close to time travel as we've ever seen, because you're borrowing the time and energy from the collective populace from the future. That's crazy. You're taking time and energy from the future and saying, we'll pay it back at some point. That's as close to time travel and as malicious of an act. But every time the U.S. government prints a dollar, they're devaluing me in my life, because I've spent time and energy here on this planet. In return for that, I've got U.S. dollars, and now those U.S. dollars are worth less, so I'm worth less.
Yes.
And so the idea that you have a money that's, one, fixed, can't be debased. So the holder, the time and energy of those that hold it cannot be debased, and then that lives outside the purview of a government or a central party or a corporation or any individual, is the most powerful concept when it comes to storing our time and energy. And you'd have to think through the history of money. Well, historically, you try and get as close as you can, right? Bitcoin right now, I believe, is as close as we can to the perfect store for our collective time and energy. But once upon a time, it was gold.
Yes.
Why? Because those collection of chemicals get us kind of close. It's harder to find more gold and debase our time and energy than it is silver.